We're going to start today by reviewing what we went over somewhat last time, so just how to create a project and stuff like that. So I'm going to navigate through my disaster of a file structure. Flask Lecture 2. Okay, and now first, this is where we're going to do our stuff. So we need to open command prompt, and I'm going to navigate here. So I'm just following the breadcrumbs on the... It doesn't matter where you do it, I'm sure you know that by now though. From there, we're going to say create a folder called, let's call it Flask Project, although you can just do it in Flask Lecture 2, so it doesn't matter. We're going to create our VN using pi3. Is there a space? No. I need to make this bigger. Pi-3-m VN, and hopefully you have Python 3 installed. I'm just going to assume you do. And it's going to do that, and you're going to wait. And then it's going to create this little venv folder. And we're going to venv spritz activate. And remember, venv, it's going to create this thingy, is a sandbox for you to do with what you want without having to worry about all the stupid weird things of dependencies and like if you install pip with one version in one project and then in another, yeah. Anyways.
Fun fact. Wait, can I cut in for a second?
Yes.
Fun fact, you don't need to capitalize the S because I'm lazy and I never capitalize the S.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, well, yeah, you can or you don't have to. From there, you want to install Flask, so you're going to go pip install Flask. And then it's going to give you this warning I don't care about, and there you go, you have Flask. So now, inside of this folder, I'm going to just create a simple Pi app using Notepad++, wrong Notepad. Oh my god, okay, there. Let me close all of this. Can I? No. Okay. So, we're going to create a very simple Flask app. Remember, from Flask import Flask, so this is the Flask package, we're importing the Flask class. We're going to create a new app, we're going to call app. That's an object of the Flask class, so that's why it's capital and not lowercase, because this is the package, this is the class. Name is just the name of the file. And remember routing, we're going to create a function called hello world that just returns this. Okay, so this is all we're going to do for now. I'm going to make sure you understand all of this because it's very important. The general structure of every single route is going to be like this. It's going to be at app.route and then the route inside of the quotes. You're going to define a function. You can name it whatever you want, but it should be descriptive because you might use it later. And you're going to run code. Often it's not going to be returned, but the function is what's going to actually do the web page processing for you. It is what allows you to actually dynamically generate and insert content as opposed to just statically serving it. So this is the import statement. This instantiates the app, which you need to actually do anything because you need a variable to be instantiated before you can do anything with it. And this just makes a server. You need a function, and you need to do something. Okay, got it? Hope that makes sense. Now I'm going to save it as app.py as a Python file. And if we go to the command prompt, we have our vn thingy, we see our app.py. So remember, set flask app equals app.py, flask run. And it's going to give you this little link you can use, but I'm just going to use localhost because I'm lazy. And it has this hello world. Okay, that is the absolute basics. Make sure you understand that. And always remember to set the Flask app before you run it if you just created it, because otherwise it's going to be confused and be like, I can't find an app. So, okay, and now let's get on to an actual case study. So we already have, oh, is someone going to say something?
Wait, hang on. Does anyone have any questions so
Yes.
far?
Okay, no, good. Now we're going to be looking at an actual case study of, say we want to create a website that lets people register for clubs. Okay, so how would we go about doing this? We're already in our Flask Lecture 2. So, in this example, I'm going to be doing 5, we might not be able to get to all 5, iterations, so like the design process of a website that would let you register for a club, or let other students register for a club. So, I'm going to begin with just some basics. As I mentioned, Flask is just a framework designed by someone else to help you do something. So, I want to look at what happens when you visit a regular web page. If you go to Inspect, you can see all the Chrome developer tools, and you can go to Network. Hold on, I need to reload this. So make sure this little red thing is on so that you can actually see what you're doing. And if you go to around the beginning, you can see the request that you made. So like this is just scrolling through the timeline of that's why the unit is milliseconds, because it's just scrolling through what happens as you request the web page. So, oh, it thinks I'm on mobile. It's interesting. Okay. So if I go back to the beginning-ish, to where I first requested it, you can see the headers. And so it's like an envelope. So if you imagine like when you write a letter, at the top of the letter is like your name and your address or whatever, even though people don't write letters anymore because they only do email. That's what the headers are. They tell you what URL you are requesting, which, okay, it's Google, we know that. The method, get or post, I talked about last week, where get stores the information where you can go like Q equals cats. Oh wait, that didn't work, I forget what it is. I thought it was Q. Oh, it changed it. Okay, I haven't done this in a while, so. But you can see there's a question mark here, and then they have a bunch of variables, like new window equals 1 and safe equals strict, separated by these ampersands that correspond to parameters in the get request. Whereas with something like a post request, it wouldn't be in the browser tab. So like with a password, that's what you want to do. So in this case, get is generally used to get information from a server, and post is generally used to post data to the server. Oh, I forgot to get rid of, okay, it doesn't matter. So the status code 200 means that everything came back okay. Yay! The remote address is the address you're visiting, and then they have some other random stuff. The response headers are what comes back to you. So the server is a program running on a computer that's going to take a request and generate a response, and that response is another envelope, just like your request, that has headers with all of this fun stuff. Yay! Okay, so what happens if I go to like that? 404. Now, let's go back to the beginning and look at the request headers and the response header. The status code is 404. Wow! That means that the page wasn't found and that my link up here is invalid, which isn't surprising because it's just a random assortment of letters, and I'm sure Google wouldn't provide a specific route for that for any reason. Okay, so to look at an example really quickly, I'm going to show you this simple program called serve.py. Really? This is a server. You don't even have to use Flask. So we're going to import from this. HTTP is a package that includes a bunch of stuff for like web serving, server. We're going to import these two things, which are not important. Again, this is just like a case example to show you that you can create a simple server without using a framework. So what this is going to do, it creates a class of type base HTTP request handler, or like a subclass, with a function called doGet, which remember, get is when you want to retrieve information from a server. It sends a response with code type of 200, and see, remember, these are some of the headers we talked about. You can end the headers, or sorry, after you send the headers, you end the headers, and from there, you write, and self is just referring to this class. You're going to write this as the actual content. And then remember, when we did localhost 5000, the part after the colon is the port. So in networking, ports are used so that you can use the same IP to do multiple things. We might talk about that later. Server address is just going to be the local address and the port, and remember parentheses in Python mean tuples, so it's a tuple involving a string with the IP address that it's using and the port, and it's going to create an HTTP daemon with this tuple that has the IP address and the port using this request handler that handles requests. Serve forever means it's just going to serve the page. So if we try, oh, oops, I don't even need to use 3. It's not saying anything, but if we go to localhost 8080, it just says hello world. So there we made a web page, but this is a bad way of doing things because it's really overcomplicated and there's a reason that frameworks exist. We don't want to have to deal with the headers directly. So now that you know some of those basics, let's look at actually creating a website, as I mentioned earlier, that lets you register for clubs. So first, let's create a folder here. We're going to call it Clubs 0. It is our first very basic iteration. It's not going to have much functionality. Remember, in Flasks, all of your templates, which are your HTML files, because you keep functionality, which is going to be like your Python and stuff, and your content separate. So we're going to create a templates folder that stores all of the templates for a project. And templates are just HTML files. So we're going to create a new text document. We're going to call index.html, because that's just the default. And it's going to yell at you because if you ever change a text file to something else, it's going to be like, no, this is not allowed. So uno momento. I'm opening. Okay, so let's edit this. That is not what I meant to do. Let's open this in Notepad++. I don't know why my screens are yeeting everywhere. And let's create an index page. So remember, if we want to create a series of pages that are all going to generally share code, generally don't want to repeat that code, especially if it's something simple like just doc type HTML and like title and body and head and all that stuff, because that's really repetitive and you don't need to do that at all. So you want to create templates, hence the word templates from before, that your web pages can extend. So this bracket % just means that you're executing Jinja code, Jinja being a templating language, and extends is the keyword, meaning that there's another page called layout.html that you're going to use to give the basic layout for your site. Remember that you have to put it in quotes. I've forgotten that many times and regretted it because I got confused. So you create these things called blocks that allow you to actually, these are what's going to be replaced in your template. So these are the kind of sandbox building blocks that you're going to take and you're going to insert into your upper templates. We're going to create a pretty simple form here. I don't need to explain it because it's just HTML, so just try to follow along and I'll leave it up for a little so you can copy it afterwards. So we're going to create a header that just says register for HTML, then we're going to create a form with an action of /register. If you remember, action means that it's going to visit this is the URL it's going to send that information to in a post request. And it's going to be a post request because we say the method is post. So we're going to create an input whose name is your name. Placeholder is name, because this is just getting the user's name. And the type is going to be, oh my god, I'm so bad at typing, text. Then we're going to create a select, which is just a list of things that you can select, a drop-down list, whose name is going to be county. So like, what county are you in? And then we're going to do /select, and the default value, which is going to be disabled, and selected, meaning it's the default, is county. Then we're just going to create some different counties that TJ pulls from, including, we'll say FCPS, LCPS, PWCS, APS, I think that's Arlington, and Falls Church City. I don't know anyone from Falls Church City, but technically they're eligible, so. Then, at the very end, we need to create an input whose value is just register. And this is going to be your submit button. And then we need to end the form. Okay, so this is our index page. I'm going to leave this up for a tiny bit so you guys can do your thing.
Yeah, Sasha, can you wait for like 1 hot second for everyone else to finish typing? Because
Yes.
I'm typing along with you and I'm slow as heck. So.
Yes, I'm just gonna leave it up. One day, Darren, one day. I'll wait until like, wow, this is going so much slower than I thought I would. I might just record the rest of this over the weekend so that you guys can have it for the competition, because there's a lot of really helpful stuff. Basically, this isn't important. You can literally do whatever you want as long as it has a name and like some random thing. You can even do another input if you want, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now if we open this templates folder in Microsoft Edge, it's going to look like this because we're not opening this in Flask, so it's not actually templating yet. But you can see we have our H1, we have name, hello, we have register. When we click register though, it's going to go to /register on C, which is your home drive, and obviously you don't have a /register on your C, so that is not what you want to do. Okay, and now let's create our layout. So just one more time so you can see it. Our layout is very simple, so you don't have to worry about that. It's literally just boilerplate. So doc type HTML, HTML/HTML, head/head, meta name equals viewport, and this is just thing for, if you don't know what this is when you use a mobile device, if you don't scale it properly, if you don't include this, it's going to try to like, there's an example on W3 Schools that's really good, but it tries to scale it as though your mobile device were a desktop, so it treats it as a really skinny and long computer screen, which is not what you want, so it scales it up so that it looks not stupid. And then we're just going to have a title. We'll call this clubs. And remember, if we go back to our original HTML, our index page, you can see block body. This is what we're replacing. This is what's getting filled. So we need to do the corresponding thing here with a space in between. Okay, and this is our layout. This contains the boilerplate that we don't want to have to copy every single time. We just want this. This is what's important in our web pages. So this is separating what's important and what's not really important. So, once again, we're going to call this layout.html and save it. I'll leave it up until like 3:49. Yes?
Make sure it's called layout.html, because otherwise it's not going to work.
Yeah, because here, you call it layout.html. If you call it something else, you have to change it here too. Which you can, I just don't want to. Okay, I think that's good. If you don't have time to copy all this, just remember title. It's like boilerplate, and just remember this block. You don't have to include this meta thing, it's not important. Now, let us write our simple app.py that's not really going to do anything. Okay, so, just like before, from Flask, the package we're going to import Flask, render template, and request, where render template is going to take a template, as in your HTML file, and render it, and so pass it through the templating engine and do everything it needs to, which is how we're going to get rid of those, like, curly bracket % things, and it's also going to make sure that everything looks the way you want it to. Request is just a variable or a class. I can't remember what it is, but it stores the information about the request headers that you saw earlier that come into the web page when you, where is it? Okay, when you open Google, remember those request headers? Yeah, so this stores variable, yeah, stores that information. So we're going to create app variable, just like before. We're going to be using this all the time, so might as well memorize it. Of the Flask class, if name is the file name. Then we're going to create a route going to slash, that's our index, and that's simple enough. Remember, you can't just render template. This function actually has to return what you want it to do. So, render template is a shortcut function that allows you to take HTML, render it, and then you just return that. So, this is just like before, so everything's the same except you have render template. You have a function, you have a route, and it does that for you. Now we're going to create a different route. Remember, if we go back to our index, it's redirecting us to slash register when you submit the form. This highlighting is wonky. So, why not make it slash register? Wowee! What an idea. And we're going to make the method post, because remember, we're not getting here, we're posting information to the server, we're sending it. So we want the method to be post. And if you're wondering, like, why do search engines use get instead of post if you're sending it information about what you want to search? It's because you're not sending the server information about what you want to search. Besides like weird ad stuff, Google doesn't save that information for later use for like practical purposes, we can say. You're actually using search queries to get search results from Google. You're not sending it anything. You're asking it for stuff. So that's why that's get and this is post, because form, we're actually sending information to the server so that I can remember that information for the future. So we're going to register, and let's just take care of some basic things here and say that if someone doesn't submit a name or a county or select a county in that form, we're just not going to let them do anything. So if not, request.form.get. So request are the request headers. Form is this form that you used to submit. So when you visit slash register, it's this form that is submitted, so we're just going to use the form variable. And from that form, we're going to get name, and remember the name here is name, that's important. It's not anything else, it's not going to be input or whatever, it's going to be what you named that specific element of the form. And then it's going to be the same thing with county. And the reason we can use not here instead of like is equal to none is because remember in Python, by default, if you're not going to send anything, it's just going to be none type. So not none is true. So if either of these are none, which is what this is saying, then we're going to return a render template. And we're just going to render some HTML thing we'll create called failure.html. Otherwise, we're going to return a template called success.html. And you might be here looking here like, hey, besides the fact that we're checking if they submitted information or not, we're not actually doing anything with the data. This is true. We are not doing anything with the data yet. But notice that we can actually get the data. So that's already a huge step forward, and we'll be able to see what we can do with that. Okay, so let's save this. I'm going to save it before you guys catch up because, and remember, save it outside of templates. You want to save it in outside of templates. So in your, the parent folder, the root folder, I guess. And now it's all nice and formatted, and you can copy all of that. And then I'm just going to quickly show how to do failure.html and success.html, and I don't think we're going to have time for any more, and you can play around with routes. Okay, so failure.html is going to be pretty simple. We're just going to, like before, extend layout.html so we don't have to copy all of that boilerplate. We're going to replace the body again, so this is just generally what you're going to do. So again, something you'll probably want to remember. although it's not particularly hard because you'll be doing it all the time. And then you just want to say, you must provide your name and dorm. And we're not even going to do HTML here because, I mean, we can. You know what? Let's do it. We'll make a paragraph. And that's it. You can literally say whatever you want. You're just copying the index, and instead of the H1 in form, you're putting a paragraph that says you must provide your name and dorm. Got it? Okay. We're going to save that in our templates folder. I don't know why it keeps opening here. As failure.html. And then we're going to create a success.html page, which is essentially the same, except it's going to say success. So we can just copy this, copy, paste, and you can say, you are registered. And then we have to clarify, well, not really. And some of you actually may recognize this. If you do, this is adapted from CS50. You probably won't know what that is, but in case any of you were wondering, that's a computer science course. So now we have our failure and our success. So now what we do, I'll keep this open up here. We're going to stop our server. We're going to go into clubs 0. Yes, I heard noise.
Wait, okay. Wait, can you hear me click my my mouse?
Yes.
It's not name and dorm. It's name and county.
Oh,
right?
yes. Sorry. Again, this was adapted from somewhere else, so I don't know why I had dorm there, but name
there's
and
a question.
county. Yes. No. Okay, generally what's going to happen actually, and I didn't get to this, you're going to post information to the server, and it's going to submit that to, the server is going to do something with that, and then the server is going to redirect you to a separate web page that says like success or failure or whatever. What I did here, where it just directly returns, isn't typical, and the reason I had to do it is because we're not actually doing anything with the form. So I just wanted to make a really simple example. You're not using post to retrieve the site HTML. Therefore, what you're doing is you're posting the form data, and then instead of you creating a GET request separately to like go somewhere else, the server is going to create that GET request for you using redirect, and it's going to redirect you to another page and send that page back to you. So like for instance, if we go to Ion, what it's probably going to do, oh, I have to log out. When you log in, is when you click log in, let's see. It doesn't have it here, but it's probably going to submit this to a URL, probably called /login. And then that's going to redirect you, not to a page called /login, but to the home page of the server. So the server is redirecting you to another page. Very rarely are you actually, within a method that handles a post request, going to be directly returning some sort of HTML, if that makes sense.
What you're saying there is when you learn to as get post, that's just on the route itself, on the endpoint itself. But typically anything that where you submit is always going to be post, because get doesn't support having body.
Yeah. Well, you can do both. It's just like here we're using post because we don't want to have that information in the URL bar, and because we're going to be sending that, we're going to show you how to actually save that information so you can display it later. Once where it resets when you restart the server, and once when it doesn't. Okay, and now since I don't have any time, unfortunately, we're going to set our Flask app.py. We're going to Flask run. It's not going to yell at me. And we're going to open. We can register. And see how this is different because we have /register. It's not going to be like that. You are registered. And now if we don't put a name, you must provide your name and county. So now we're actually doing something with the data. Wow! And you can actually, from here, you can do a lot more. This opens up so much with forms and dynamically generating data, which we'll show you, eventually login forms, and yeah.